super cool game. It has this directionality about it. You are playing these, for lack of a better word, furries in a spaceship, and you it's a roguelike deck builder, but the cards are like making your spaceship move.
Sorry, we gotta go back. Furries in a spaceship? That's what you said? Can't Let It Go, an audio PowerPoint party about the things we didn't need to research but did anyway. I'm AC. I use they, them pronouns.
I'm Matt. I use he, him pronouns, and that is the one we're going to use. You tricked me.
Haha. Switch it up. I gotcha. I did it. I did it one time, and now I'm hungry for power. Let me intro the podcast, Matt.
I appreciate you saving me there. Yeah, I was not on the episode last week, and you all recorded an episode that I thoroughly enjoyed listening to.
Hey, we loved making it for you.
For me specifically. And
for you specifically,
no
yes.
Yeah, thanks to AJ for being on the show and for editing the show. Okay, I just want to say, AJ was also busy editing their other shows. They edit Paws and Claws. They edit their own show, .zip and Frog of the Week. But also they were editing a 16 fucking hour Into the Aether episode.
I can't believe that it's that long.
They were texting me about how like our episode was going to be late because there was like something secret that I would know about this week sometime. And we found out it was a 15 hours, 55 minutes, and 51 second episode for Games of the Decade, which was Into the Aether celebrating their 1 million listens, which congrats to them, but
huge
wild.
Props.
Too much work is what the folks over at Into the Aether are doing.
Good work, but definitely too much. Honestly, we roughly talk for about 16 hours, maybe a little closer to 20 hours per season. I cannot, despite how much I like to talk, I cannot imagine talking for 16 hours straight.
They said they were losing entire Sundays to recording because they were recording 2 Any Percents, which are 10-minute episodes. They were recording the regular episode and Out of the Aether, which is like 15 minutes on YouTube, and then like an hour to an hour and a half of a year of Games of the Decade, 2000 to 2009. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about Balatro. I feel like we're kind of like late to the game on this one, but
yeah,
legit, I've been playing this game since like September last year. We brought the game up on the show before, I think maybe right when it came out. I maybe brought it in a nugget or something like that.
I think we also talked about it when we talked about Marvel Snaps.
Probably, yeah.
And other, it's in our games ether. So we've been playing and enjoying it for a while now.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know what Balatro is, the alternate title for this game was Joker Poker, which is, I think, more descriptive, but a worse name.
Joker Poker. I hardly know her. Sorry. Oh. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had
it's
to
fine.
do it.
It's a game where you're dealt a hand of cards, and you have to make a poker hand out of that hand of cards. That's really basically what it is. You're trying to make a poker hand that gets you a certain points value that you get over a certain amount of chips that, those cards in that hand make up, plus the multiplier for that specific hand. The way it gets more complicated is that you get things that affect those scores. I believe Balatro is maybe like Latin or something for jester. And the idea is that as you go on through your winnings, you can, stop at various shops and buy primarily jokers to improve the scores of your hand. So a joker that I will grab early is one called Even Steven, which adds an extra multiplier every time that you play an even card. There's jokers that do all kinds of things. I think at some point we should talk about some of our favorite jokers.
Absolutely.
But there's also other ways to improve your scores. You can buy planet cards, which upgrade the end chip values of multiple hands. So you can buy Venus, which upgrades a 3 of a kind. I often will buy the Venus planet if it's available early game, because it early on at like levels like 1 to 5, it upgrades
Mhm.
faster than any of the other hands.
Yeah.
And also you can buy tarot cards in Arcana packs, which let you kind of edit your deck. So you might have a 4 and you could give it an effect that if it's in your hand at the end of the round, you get $3. Or you might give an ace, you might make it a glass card, which means that most of the time when you play it, it's going to give you a big multiplier, but occasionally when you play it, it's going to destroy itself.
Yeah.
That play style of being able to just like play hands, but upgrade all the aspects of the deck itself and the sort of set of jokers you have leads to this like really cool emergent gameplay where things happen that were not explicitly designed by the developer of this game, but are just absolutely incredible. And it makes the game super fun. You'll hear a lot of people call this game addicting. I don't really like referring to like video games that way, but like it is a game that I often am like, oh, I've been playing this for a lot longer than I meant
for
to.
hours. Oh my gosh. I think it's also like, I love the gameplay. So, right, the gameplay is done by hands and then by rounds and then by antes. Antes are a set of 3 rounds, right? And something that I love about that structure is also that I can also spend like 10 minutes playing it. It feels satisfying and I can come back and pretty easily drop in and drop out. So one of the things that's been really fun for us is my partner, who I've mentioned like isn't really super into video games except for that one specific game about the bears that are also dead. Cozy Grove is my description of Cozy Grove. But they have really gotten into Balatro as well. And so sometimes we sit and like we just hand the controller back and forth between hands or between rounds to like make it cooperative, even though it really is like single player. And that's been a really fun aspect of it. Or just like I can play it for 15 minutes on a break, or if I just need a little something to do. But it's also easy to like, I mean, totally lose. I mean, I'm looking up, it's 2:00 in the morning and I started playing at 7 p.m. and I've lost all sense of time and place and listened to about 8 hours of podcasts.
Half of it into the 8th episode.
Half of it into the 8th episode, exactly.
Yeah, so I just want to like put out here like an early disclosure. I got this game for free from the publisher. So that should have no bearing on what I say, like what you think about what I say about this game, because I played like 200 hours of the demo of this game just on like a recommendation because I tried it and was immediately smitten. And that's actually the reason that I was given it by the publisher. NBZ, who is in the Discord and who I've done a video with, he and his coworker at Playset Games are the folks that discovered this game on Steam and, you know, got Local Thunk, the solo developer of this game, the single person, to sign on with PlayStacks for distribution and publishing. And he knew that I was a big fan, and it came out 2 days after my birthday, and he sent me a code on my birthday, which was really cool. Thank you, NBZ.
That's so nice.
But I've also bought this game 3 times for other people. So.
That's so funny. Well, you didn't buy it for me. I did buy it myself, right? Like after we like talked about it enough, or I heard you talking about it enough, I was like, oh, I'll try it out. And okay, so I am not the kind of person who usually puts 200 hours into a game. I am like, oh, okay, I was going to say a number I thought was big. And I also knew when I was writing this number down and like looking it up that this is nothing compared to what some people put into games, right? But like I checked, and since I started playing in late March, I've played about 115 or more hours of Balatro. And the only games that I have ever played more on my game system, like on my Switch in the last however long it tracks back, are Animal Crossing and Legend of Zelda. Those are the only games that I've played for more time. And those I put like, 300, 400. I mean, Animal Crossing, I think, is something like 700 hours, but across like 4 years. But across 4 years, okay?
But I put 300 into that game during COVID and then never touched it again.
I have a very well-designed island. I also play... I could play the DLC, the Happy Vacation Home DLC forever. So don't whatever. Whatever.
It's
This
fine.
is not
I
about
have
Animal Crossing.
zero
This is
judgment.
about Balatro, Matt. Okay. I love this game. And also that 115 hours does not include any of the hours that we've logged playing on my partner's account because we play on separate accounts. And she doesn't have a Nintendo account linked to her profile, so we don't actually know how many hours she played. If I had to guess, it is at least 100 hours on hers as well. So like a total of 200 hours between both of us.
Yeah, I came over to your place like a month ago, and it was just like chilling on the ottoman, and she was just sitting there. She had clearly been playing it before we walked in.
Yeah. Most of the time I walk out of the room when we're in like downtime and she's just playing the game, right? That or Cozy Grove. It has certainly replaced a lot of our like casual television watching in the evening. Like we play this game. It doesn't feel like an unreasonable amount because we still are getting like enjoyment out of it and it's not disrupting like other things. But when I think about the amount that we play this game, I do feel a little like, wow, that's a lot. We are playing this a lot.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. So I went to look at my times. I actually can't see my times from the demo. I have spent more time in the demo than I've spent in the main game. Local Thunk, the developer, had a really good demo for this game before it came out.
Nice.
It says that my time on Steam is 30 hours. That is undercounting a lot. We'll talk about it here in a bit, but I managed to get the game running on my iPad, and that's actually where I've played more of the game is on my iPad mini, just like sitting on the couch, on an airplane, stuff like that. Since the main game's been out, that's mostly where I've played it. I want to talk about like why the game is so good. Are you aware of the genre of roguelike deck builders generally? I've probably talked about them to you. Maybe I did on Marvel Snap, but
yeah, we did the Marvel Snap episode. We've talked about Balatro before. But, like, I think that I've said on other episodes as well, like, Hades is the only other roguelike game I have found myself coming back to, right? Yeah. And so now Balatro qualifies, but, like, no. Like,
yeah, I saw there was this video from from Extra Credit, which people will know, and they talked about sort of, like, how the roguelike deck builder came to be. This is why I asked you the other day if we had played Dominion before, because we play a lot of Dominion at the house. It's a board game that is a deck builder where the game is not necessarily like playing cards. The game is building the deck, right? Like that's the strategy. And that was not necessarily new, but the thing that Extra Credit sort of poses was that Dominion took off, created a whole genre of board game, and then that genre made its way to video games, and that's where you get Slay the Spire.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Does it look like that we've played Dominion before? I saw you searching.
No, I was looking up to see if Wingspan, which is a game that I play a lot, which is a card-based game, qualified as a deck builder. It qualifies as an engine builder.
Yeah.
Not a deck builder. So
yeah, it's definitely, I would not call that a deck builder. It's also very much like victory points is really just like a win condition at this point in time in like a style of game. But yeah, that's kind of what I think about it as like a generic victory points game. Dominion is also a victory points game. The strategy there is balancing how many victory points you have in your deck versus like the cards you need to get victory points at the right time. Because victory points do nothing for you. They just gum up your hand, but you need them at the end.
Interesting. Like stone cards.
Yes. Although stone cards do things for you. I have not figured out how to play the stone strategy. So again, that Extra Credit video posits that like this transition to video games was through Slay the Spire, which like Slay the Spire I think of as like the OG roguelike deck builder. I think kind of everyone does. It's fantasy themed. The cards you're playing are things like attack, shield. Cards will give something poison, which will fall off over time. So one turn it might take 3 damage at the beginning of their turn. The next it'll be 2. The next will be 1. These are really like basic mechanics, but that's the kind of thing. It plays sort of like a single player trading card game, like a Magic the Gathering or a Pokemon or something, but built for one person. I often don't like these kinds of games, mostly because I'm not really a big fantasy person, but also because when I play card games, I prefer to play against someone that is playing cards.
Okay.
Does that make
yes.
sense? So in Slay the Spire, you're not doing that. You're like attacking units and they're attacking you. But you are doing that via cards. And that can be fun. I've played a lot of Slay the Spire, but that's not generally the thing I enjoy. But this is a huge genre at this point. I'll definitely recommend a bunch more of these at the end of the episode, but like Monster Train is one that I know a bunch of folks have played and I've played a decent amount of. Cobalt Core is one that I really enjoy. Gwent. We could have a conversation
within
about
Witcher, right? Is Gwent is technically a deck building game, right?
Man. Yes. I would not consider it in this like lineage of deck builders. It is more in the lineage of something, again, I'm going to say this and someone's going to have a problem with it, but it's more in the lineage of a Magic the Gathering or something like that.
That's how it feels to me.
There is a roguelike version of Gwent that you can also play. Yeah. I didn't like that game that much.
Okay. For folks who aren't familiar, Gwent is a game within the Witcher series. Yes. So, or at least that's where its origins are. Now, as Matt mentioned, you can play it. There are versions you can download that are not tied to the Witcher, or you don't have to play the whole game of the Witcher. Honestly, you don't have to play hardly any of the game of the Witcher to be able to play a shit ton of Gwent in the game.
One day I'm going to play The Witcher 3. I own it in like 3 places. I know. It's a game that you spent a lot of time in.
No, actually,
really?
It's a game that I thought that I spent a lot of time in. And then when I looked at my number of hours that I put into the game today, when I was looking at stuff today, I was like, I did not actually make a dent in this fucking game. Wow. So, that's on me. It's fine.
The thing about Balatro, though, is that while it definitely like is in the lineage of these roguelike deck builders, right? You've got individual rounds, you're progressing towards an end goal, you're upgrading a build over time. There's choice, right? Like in traditional Slay the Spire, and things inspired by it, you've got like a web of dots. And so you will start at one point and the next option might have 4 places you can go and you can choose the next one. That structure's not here, but you still have choice in that you can like play or skip a particular blind or round of the game. And skipping will get you some kind of benefit, but you'll lose out on the opportunity of, what you would get from playing. It has all the elements of the roguelike deck builder that you come to expect if you play a lot of these games. But Local Thunk never played any of these games before he made this game.
Whoa.
That's
really weird.
Yeah, just like straight up had never heard, or had, I don't know about never heard of them, but just like was not interested, didn't really... Like he says that he was like building a game for his friends, which is what he apparently does. Like his hobby is just making video games and then just emailing them to his buds and like playing with them.
I have to say, this is infinitely better than any game I've ever tried to come up with.
Yes.
And I once tried to write a Cold War version of Risk with my friends when I was in high school. So
that's very you.
Yeah, I know. I am who I am. I was in Model UN. I liked Risk Godstorm a lot. That was our basic rule set. Anyway, I'll talk about that another time.
I was trying to see if they've made a Cold War Risk game at this point, and it does not look like they have.
I think that there are a lot of pretty clear reasons why they haven't done that. It's not our best era of history, It's a hard one to make a game out of where you're like, and America was the winner.
Yeah, I also just like never really enjoyed Risk because I always got just like completely owned by my friend Drew going up.
Okay, we gotta play Risk Godstorm. It has a different rule set that introduces like events that are very, very fun. To just bring it back to Balatro, one of the things that I like about Risk Godstorm and one of the things that I like about Balatro is like the way that those different blinds, like the not the big blinds, the ante, the final round of each thing basically has a different difficulty or a different challenge set to it that will make it harder to beat that level, right?
Yeah, you're talking about the boss blinds. So
the boss blinds. My words are...
You're fine. Into 3 blinds. It's small blind, big blind, boss blind.
Right. So, again, using the language of poker, but you're not really playing poker. You're playing poker hands. And I mean, some you're also playing hands that are not possible in poker. Like five of a kind or flush five of a kind, right? I mean, I guess maybe there's some version of poker where you can play five of a kind where you're playing poker with more than one deck in your draw, but I don't really know that much about poker either.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some like broken version, but for sure. It's you flush five, there's a flush house.
Yep.
Or there's five of a kind, and then there's a flush house, and then there's, I can't remember what the other one is. There's three other like technically poker illegal hands.
Yeah. And all of that is because of that deck builder aspect, right? That you can change your cards, you can change the suits of them using some of the powers. Like you can change you can destroy cards forever, right? Like all in pursuit of like getting those hands that are easy to like hit your scores really quickly. But I love the way that those boss blinds introduce like an event that is like a new challenge each round. Like I have definitely done a run where I'm like, oh, I have perfectly engineered this and I'm absolutely fucking crushing it. And then it's like, oh, boss blind is the thing that you have pinned your strategy around. And it's going to like debuff everything that you have pinned your strategy around. So good luck.
Yeah.
And honestly, I love that. I love the way that it encourages you to like take risks in your gameplay, and you do have to commit to a strategy to be able to win. But you also have to like be able to know when to just abandon that strategy and build something new as fast as you can.
Yeah, and I often have to build like 2, maybe 3 strategies into my deck throughout the game. Like I usually choose early based on what I'm getting. If I'm going to play like hand level forward, right? Like buying a lot of planet cards, or if I'm going to play like deck editing forward, where I'm buying a lot of tarot cards and editing them. Hell, there's even runs where I'm like, I don't leverage a ton of jokers, right? But even when I like within that, say that I go with like buying planet cards, I might upgrade with Venus, the 3 of a kind, a few times, but I'll also usually have a backup, right? Okay. And then as I'm buying jokers, I will also keep one that lets me kind of have like if I can't play this hand, then I'll play this one, and I should be able to maybe not get the same amount of chips, but like similar, just to like squeak out a really bad boss blind, right?
Yeah.
Like, so the ones that always get me are the Ox. So playing your most played hand this run sets money to 0. Extra large blind, which is just 4 times the base value that you have to get over. One that I super hate is the eye. Every hand played this round must be a different type and not previously played this round.
The eye kills me.
Yeah. There's also the mouth, which is only one hand type can be played this round.
I hate the mouth. Unless I am playing like a strategy that's like, really focusing in on one hand type. And I know like I have a tendency to like overpower certain hands because I'm a relatively novice player and like still learning how to like have that balance, or how to have 2 or 3 strategies in my back pocket is like harder for me. I've really
plays 115 hours, says they're a novice.
Listen, Matt, every day I go online and I watch people play this game and I'm like, what the fuck game are they playing? Because it is like insane. I will say I had my first just in this last week. So I've been playing regularly, obviously, since March. Just in this last week, I had my first game that I was playing where I scored 1,000,000 points on one hand.
Nice.
And I was like floored that it even happened. But prior to that, even getting to 1,000,000 was like the stretch goal that I was never reaching. For context, right? Again, the structure is that you play up to 8 antes, and after the 8th ante and you beat 8 levels of the game, you win, right? And it resets, or you can move into endless mode. And so I think you are an endless mode hater. Is that right?
Not hater. It's just not like the part of the game that I enjoy. Like a lot of people will talk about reaching E, for the first time, and it's like when they get into like e to the power of numbers.
Oh my god. It goes to that?
Oh yeah, it goes like as high as you want it to, really. I mean, as high as like computers can hold numbers, which is a lot these days.
Oh god.
And
now I'm stressed all over again.
I don't, that's not the part of the game that I like.
Yeah.
Part of it's that I'm not good at that, but you know.
Oh, the other thing that I was going to say about the boss blinds, the one that got me, I hoist by my own petard so severely the other day. And it also happened to me again earlier today. Is it, how do you say the one that makes all the all cards face cards? I actually don't know how to pronounce that one.
Let me find it.
It's Pareidolia.
Pareidolia? I don't know. That's very American of me.
Anyway, so of course that one where it's like all cards are considered face cards, and then I got whatever the boss blind was that's like all face cards are drawn face down. So it's like all cards are drawn face down. I was like, well,
yeah,
see ya.
That can be really rough. That is a common thing to run into. I think like I'm going to say something. I think often there's got to be something in the code that like tricks you, but in reality, if you go look, like you can look at the code. It is available in the file you download from Steam. That's not true, right? Like a lot of people will talk about the wheel, right? So one of the tarot cards that you can buy is the wheel, and theoretically, when you play it, you have a 25% chance to give one of your jokers like a modifier. It might be polychrome, it might be negative. We can talk about what those are later, but they give you some benefits. The joke is that it never fires. The joke is that like it says 1 out of 4, but I played it 10 times and didn't get anything, right? And so people are convinced that it doesn't, like it's actually a lower percentage than that. But the thing that I know is that people's perception of percentage is extremely off.
Right, and it's also a 1 in 4 chance doesn't mean that if you do something 4 times, it will happen one of those 4 times. It means that each of those 4 times, if you were to do...
Yes.
Fuck. If
I understand the probability.
Do it 4 times, it would happen 1 time. Anyway, I have an advanced degree in statistical analysis, and this makes me want to die.
But yeah, but you can go read the code. It's just a 25% chance. Like it's right there. I said earlier that Local Thunk had never played one of these games before. He was trying to make a game based on the card game Big Two.
Okay, never heard of it.
I hadn't either. It's apparently Cantonese, but it involves poker hands the same way that Balatro does. And he was trying to make it like PvP. Like he wanted you to like play against people. And he he was making this for his friends. He was not trying to be like super intense about it or like make a bunch of money or anything like that. He was just like, I'm going to make this game, see if my friends enjoy it. We played a lot of Big Two when I was growing up, you know, like just wanted to have fun. And then he was watching Northern Lion on Twitch.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you watched Northern Lion play Balatro?
I have watched like a little bit, not a lot, but yes.
Northern Lion is like is a popular streamer specifically for roguelikes and roguelike deck builders, and he's really bad at video games. And he has a Luck Be a Landlord series, which Luck Be a Landlord is a slot machine video game. The premise is that your rent is due, and your landlord keeps raising your rent, and you have so many spins to earn your rent on the slot machine.
Mm-hmm. Just is hurting my feelings.
Yeah. I mean, that's the point of the game. The point of it's like, it's very pointed at what it's about. But it plays like
the game called Luck Be a Landlord is pointed.
Yeah. It plays like a roguelike deck builder, but it's a slot machine. And so he was watching that, and he says, the one largest influence on Balatro was Luck Be a Landlord. I watched Northern Lion play it for a few videos and loved the concept of a non-fantasy themed score attached to a roguelike a ton. So I modified the card game I was working on at the time into a roguelike. I cut myself off from the genre at that point intentionally. I wanted to make my own mistakes and explore the design space naively just because that process is so fun. I hear the comparison to Slay the Spire a lot, but the truth is that I hadn't played that game or seen footage of it when I designed Balatro, not until much later. So we were talking about like that web of dots earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The reason it doesn't exist and the reason he found a different way to bring choice into the game is because he had never played Slay the Spire, which, like, as a fan of the genre, is wild.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's really cool too that even detach. Obviously, some of this has to do with like the style of game informs the rule set and the gameplay, right? Like the intention to make this game that is repeatable and like playable again in all these different ways. But I actually think that it's really cool too. Like a great reminder of like the proximity of creativity and like the ways that good ideas and like good structures crop up over and over again, right? There are some things that are different. I mean, I say this, I've never played Slay the Spire. You tell me that there are some things that are different and I trust you because we do this podcast together. No, but like there are these like really good things that are fundamentals that sort of were repeated here despite the lack of context, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we talked about in Marvel Snap episode that, like, that game made me want to make a game. Hey, I since participated in the TWG Game Jam and made a little tiny game, which was fun.
Oh.
It was not a card game because that is tough. The thing I've learned about making card games is that they are all UI code, and that is complicated. It's not so complicated that I won't ever do it, but it's quite complicated. But the thing that I have found while like working on game design for the ideas that I have, at least, is like, oh, I'm running into this problem, and like that thing I was avoiding because it felt cliche is like the obvious solution to this problem.
Mm-hmm.
Not even like I needed to grab it because I'm like, oh, you know, that's just, it's fun and I like that, so we're gonna play. It's like, oh no, like I see how they got there naturally, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it is cool that like some things stayed the same, but like sometimes he answered questions in similar ways but not the same, right?
Yeah.
The one that I always point to is that web of dots, but his being like you skip or play particular blinds. The music in this game rips.
Yeah, it does.
I definitely, when it was like still in the demo, would find myself just like sitting there listening to it.
I mean, I think that one of the things that like I have gotten into it in the last couple of years, partially because it's something that's often on in my house. My partner is a person who like really loves background noise. And I, as we discussed, I hate ambient music. Mm-hmm. I like actually have a very negative, angry reaction when I hear music without a resolution. Mm-hmm. So we've really leaned into like game music and like people who make like game music mods and simulators and stuff like that online. So it's like, oh, like 15 hours of like Legend of Zelda background music, and it's just the loops and all of that kind of stuff. But I have found like with Balatro, I really like just like having it on, just having, not playing a game, it's just on in the background of whatever we're doing, and it's delightful.
Have you heard the live or funk versions of the Balatro theme song?
No. I would love to.
Okay. Here is, okay, so this funk fusion cover is by a guy named Dom Palombi on YouTube. He's got so many good versions of this. By the way, he did like a drum and bass Planet Pack theme. So like when you open up the various packs, like the music will change. Like if you open a Arcana pack or a
Celestial pack.
Celestial packs. There you go. But he's got a drum and bass cover of that one. He did a live version.
I see a a 34-minute version that I am excited to play later.
I'll drop a link to a few of these in the show notes for sure. But the reason that this stuff exists is not just because of like I feel like sometimes video game music gets like a weird, like it's all about nostalgia thing.
Yeah.
This in this case, it's not that very clearly. It is like, no, this is like good music outside the context of a video game. Something I felt very similarly about with Hades.
Yeah, that's true. And I think, you know, Hades does it a little bit more intentionally because of like the storyline with Orpheus. It's really, really like a pleasant surprise. It feels like the audio design could have been a secondary thing, especially for like an indie game or like a smaller game, and like at this more affordable price point. But it is just really good music. I don't even know.
Yeah, no, it's
what
very
to say
good.
other than that.
The music was made by Luis Clement. We're gonna find out if they've worked on anything else. I literally cannot find them, so they maybe just are a friend of Local Thunk.
Love that.
They've made an incredible soundtrack for this video game.
Yeah, I think there's also something to be said for like that's sort of like low stakes. Like I'm making this game for my friends, and like the benefit that brings to this game of like it can just be good, right? Like when your goal isn't necessarily, at least at the outset, to make something for the purpose of making money, right? Like I don't know. That doesn't necessarily always make things better. It doesn't give it inherent value, but I can see the care, right? And like the joy that went into making this.
So contrary to that wonderful sentiment that I agree with, I have now found this person. They go by Lewis F Soundtracks on Instagram, and it says they're a soundtrack composer. They write music for video games. They're based in Madrid. And it looks like maybe Local Thunk just like found this person.
Cool.
On the internet.
I dig that.
Yeah. Hey, this is Editing Matt. I did confirm that Lewis F Soundtracks is the right person, and it looks like Local Thunk actually found him on Fiverr. You can see a review on Lewis's Fiverr from Local Thunk that says, Lewis went way above and beyond. He took difficult and specific requirements from me for a soundtrack for an indie game and made a song that is unique, interesting, and was exactly what I wanted. He is professional and his work is incredible. I will link to Lewis's Fiverr page in the show notes as well as on this chapter marker. However, right now his services are on hold, so he is not making music for other people at the moment, it would seem. Anyway, back to the show. Hey, AC, what's your favorite Joker?
Oh my God. Okay, I have been thinking about this so much, and I feel like I have such a basic bitch answer because I do love the Gros Michel Cavendish. Like,
oh, hell yeah.
Like, I really, really enjoy the Gros Michel. I think it's actually, I laugh every time I finally find it, and like, I buy it and then it immediately goes extinct. Okay, wait. I should tell people, if you're not familiar with the game, what the Gros Michel does. So the Gros Michel is a banana card.
It's just a card with a banana on it.
The Joker has a banana on it. There's no Joker. So usually the art of the cards in some way references like a jester face or a clown face in some way or another. But there are a number of these cards where the design does not have a jester on them at all. And this one, the Gros Michel, is a reference to the now extinct type of banana, right? That when we talk about like how banana flavor doesn't taste how bananas actually taste, that is the Gros Michel, right? So the thing is that at the end of each round, there is a 1 in 6 chance that the card disappears, right? It goes extinct, which is a very funny joke. Like, I just want to be clear. It is very funny that they were like, oh yeah, it just might disappear.
Yeah.
You might not have it anymore. And then you can, once you have played the Gros Michel, you can get another banana card, which is the Cavendish card, which is the type of bananas that are now available. And the Cavendish card has a much a much lower probability, a higher modifier of the 1 in whatever chance I think it's a 1 in 100 chance. Is that right?
So
I
it
don't
gives you a
remember.
×3 multiplier, but it's a 1 in 1,000 chance it gets destroyed.
1 in 1,000 chance it gets destroyed. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. That's I love those mostly because I love the joke. I will say I annoy my partner. I really like Card Sharp as well. Because I like to play one kind of hand the whole time.
Yeah, Card Sharp is a good one, especially if you know that you're not going to hit that boss blind or if you have a way to re-roll them.
Yeah. What about
I
you?
really love the trousers.
Oh, yeah.
Spare trousers. So this Joker gains +2 multiplier if played hand contains a 2 pair.
Yeah.
I love Jokers that like infinitely scale.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is one of the easiest hands to play in the game.
Yeah.
And 2 different hands can trigger it. Like 2 different common hands can trigger it. Both 2 pair and full house.
Full house. Yeah.
I guess flush house could trigger it too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love stuff like that. That's why there's one.
The castle. I also like the castle a lot.
The
But that's
castle
a
is a
discard
good one. Yeah, so it gains 3 chips per discarded suit card, and that suit changes every round. Okay. Throwback. It gives you a ×0.25 multiplier for every blind that you've skipped.
Yeah.
Right? So I'll pair that one with Madness, which is when you select a small or a big blind. Madness gains 0.5 times multiplier, and it destroys a random Joker card. So basically, I get an extra multiplier, like times multiplier, whether I skip or choose to play, right?
Yeah. Nice.
It's risky because Madness destroys a Joker, and it might destroy,
right.
the other one. That's just a risk that you're taking.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say that like the combinations and the ways that all of these Jokers can play well with each other is so much like so fun to like figure out a little combination that works well. It feels like there are some that are like intended to pair together, right? It's like, oh, if you get these together, you could really do some tricky stuff, right? But one that I have really enjoyed figuring out, there's 2 here. That I'm thinking of right now. So one is combining Smeared Joker, which makes hearts and diamonds and spades and clubs all count for each other. So it's like reds and blacks, basically. And then Flower Pot, which is, a ×3 multiplier if your hand includes one of each suit. But that just pulls it down. So you get this like really great effect of building on each other there. But I also absolutely love doing, oh gosh, what is the name of that one? Hang on. Let me scroll here. Okay. The other day I hit for the first time a really fun combination of Certificate and the Certificate, and I just saw it and then I lost it
Vampire?
again. No, Certificate and Driver's License.
Okay.
So Driver's License is like if you have added 16 cards to your hand, you get a 3 times multiplier. And Certificate adds an enhanced card to your hand at the end of every round, or actually when you choose the blind. Sorry, not at the end. So when the round begins. So if you get Certificate early enough and you play enough rounds, you buy cards, you really quickly get to that Driver's License threshold. And it's super fun.
Yeah, one of the combos that I really enjoy is 4 fingers plus shortcut Joker. So 4 fingers lets you make straights and flushes, which is 4 cards. And shortcut lets you make straights with a gap of 1. So you could make a 4-card straight that is 4, 6, 8, 10.
Oh my god, when you have a holographic shortcut, I feel like I've just been blessed by the gods.
So I want to say something, and I'm going to say it, and then I want you to tell me the reason that we're actually having this episode.
Oh, yes.
So the thing about how these all score is that the order matters because of the order of operations in math.
Yeah.
So I will explain how scores work really quickly, and then we can jump in, which is that scores in Balatro are a chip value of a hand times some multiplier. Both of those values upgrade if you buy planet cards for that hand. When your jokers are triggering, they're adding either chip values or multipliers, or sometimes multiplying the multiplier. And so you want to often have like your added multipliers before your multiplied multipliers because of the order of operations, which starts to get at, I think, the thing you said, which is that this game has made you better at math.
Yes, 100%. Okay, so for a little bit of additional context, when I started playing this game, I was very bad at it. And I am not very good at video games in general, and I'm not super good at cards in general. I'm good at like speed and spit card games that are more about like agility, for lack of a better word, than they are about like strategy, right? And so, or noticing patterns more than they are about strategy. And so I texted you and I was like, hey, is this like, I have not gotten past ante 8. Am I bad at this? Am I doing something wrong? And you were the one who told me about the PEMDAS thing, right? You were like, oh, well, they score from left to right. And then so you want to make sure that your addition is happening before your multiplication, right? And that unlocked a whole new world for me. And since then, I've probably played like 80 hours of this game where I am constantly doing math to be able to know whether or not I'm going to beat this blind, right? And then there's the whole, like, you know, multiplication tables are reversible, or not tables, multiplication is reversible, right? So it's like, when I learned that after I started playing Balatro. Guys, I'm not good at math is the point here. Or I didn't used to be. And now that I have played all of these hours of this game, and I'm like constantly thinking about not just how do the two numbers on either sides of the multiplication interact with each other, but like how do I balance upping both the chips and the multiplier so that I can get to a better overall score? Because if you just up one side, unless you're playing on the plasma deck, which is like a whole other thing, which is so fun. I actually have recently gotten into the plasma deck, and that is blowing my mind in a whole new math way because, oh my God. Okay, so what the plasma deck does is that it balances your score. So if you add a bunch on one side of the multiplication, it will then even that out. So if you had 100 on one side and 50 on the other, it would even it out to 75 times 75. Anyway, okay. So I feel like the additional context here is like, I, as a person who's like socialized as a young woman, right, like had a lot of blockers around doing math. What I know now is like the way that I learn and the way that I move through the world means that I am good at math, but I'm not good at addition or subtraction or doing math quickly, or at least I hadn't been up until this point. And I also think that like the low pressure stakes of like playing a game that is fun and I am enjoying, even when I was sucking at it, like I was having a fun time just being like, ooh, what does this do? And like enjoying the music and all of that kind of stuff made it so that there was this really low pressure environment where I got to practice those math skills over and over again and like have fun doing it. So I don't know if you're like trying to teach your like 10-year-old advanced math, this could be a fun thing to do. I don't know, or if you yourself are someone who might like shy away from a game that we're describing like this, where like it, even just the description of it, it becomes very clear very quickly that like understanding how scores multiply and stack together is like something that you need to do to understand and build an effective strategy for the game. Like it does get easier over time. And I noticed that like now I'm doing the check at a restaurant, or I'm speaking off the cuff and I'm saying, if you have 100 on one side and 50 on the other side, I could instantly tell you. And I mean, those are pretty easy numbers, right? But I think a past version of me would have had to pause and think about that for longer than I did.
Mm-hmm. I definitely thought this game was going to be too mathy to be as popular as it is. I've heard a lot of podcasts talk about it, and like the people that didn't vibe with it or thought they weren't going to, or like weren't early on, were often talking about the math. I think the game has transcended that for a lot of people. I don't know. I've ranted at you for years about the fact that like people approach math in a way that is unfortunate, because with the exception of people with like very clear disabilities, I think that we were just like all taught math in a way that really sucks, and that is more about innate talent than it is actually about learning anything. Mm-hmm. I would say a lot
or about rote memorization without learning like the why, right?
Yes, absolutely. Both of those things, genuinely. I mean, I had a lot of my personal understanding of the world broken down during college, but also specifically during like the math tutoring that I did in college. And where I learned the concept of the growth mindset was in tutoring math, with students taking like remedial algebra in their freshman year of college, right? And the thing that I learned was that like people were basically told two things. One, that you were either good at math or bad at math, and that the way to learn was to treat it like a history class or something. Mm-hmm. And that was just not it. So the way that I often got around it was like figuring out, okay, how far down do I need to go to figure out the fundamental of the thing you're not understanding here? Yeah. And then from there, because I was good at it, because I was basically, I was treated well as a student, right?
Right, yeah.
Because I was good at it, I could then be like, oh, well, here's a shortcut that I've got. Here's how that shortcut works, which is important, right? Here's why that is important. But now that you know, you can use it, right?
Yeah.
And that often was the most helpful stuff, was to, go down to the, and then we could work back up to, okay, here's this algebra problem you're working on. Like, I can give you a sample problem that is like 3 levels down if that's what you need. And it taught me that like anyone can learn math, or most people can learn math, right? And I will say, I similarly felt this way about singing. I think that's another one that people often think is you either have it or you don't. Right. But I think it's because people do start out at like different levels, right? This is true of like different things. But I have heard a person that I really hated listening to sing get so much better over the course of a year just through like college level vocal studies.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, I actually like want to see you perform. Yeah. Like it's not just like writing and, these other skills, like the stuff that you think you can't be good at, like you actually can.
Right. I mean, there is something to be said. Like it is annoying, right? It is about practice, right? Yes. And it is about like breaking down those barriers for yourself. I had a pretty good relationship with math. I found it challenging, right? Yeah. When I was a young person, I was homeschooled. But then in middle school and high school, I struggled. But in high school, one of the best classes that I took was a class called Math Concepts. I think it was called Math Concepts or something like that, because I did this program called the International Baccalaureate Program. It's akin to AP, but it is different. And this class was all oriented around, like, we learned logic puzzles. We learned how integers work. We learned, that you can add 1 and 1 and get 3. That like, right. Like, and like, yes, you can add 1 and 1 together and get 3 because of rounded values. Don't at me. It's real. Okay. Look it up. But like those kinds of things were interesting to me and fascinating to me, and like made me feel more excited about math. And like, I really liked calculus. I really liked statistics when it wasn't business statistics, because the stock market is fucking fake. And if I had to think about it for one more second, I was going to explode. I famously, none of you, again, you guys don't know this. I got a C in business statistics my first semester of college. And then I got all A's in every social statistics class I ever took because simply I could not understand and apply the math to the stock market. Because to your point, working backwards to the thing that I didn't understand was fundamentally why the stock market. I was just like, I'm just stuck on the fact that this is all made up. Sorry, I can't accept the premise. So I can't get anywhere, right? And so I think like the way that I started to talk about it after all of that context was like, oh, well, I really like theoretical or applied math, right? What I struggle with is the addition, the subtraction, like the thinking quickly on my feet. And part of the reason why I enjoyed more advanced math is because there was less expectation for you to be able to do that necessarily, right? Like everybody's using a calculator in calculus. Nobody is doing those. I mean, some people are doing the addition in their head. And those people are not writing down all of the steps, so they can't find out where in their proof they made the mistake.
I am flashing all the way back to my machine learning class in grad school, where I was doing like matrix multivariate calculus on a whiteboard in my like dorm building and being like, how is this what I've done with my life? I have never regretted taking a class more than machine learning. Man, that was rough.
Yeah, that does not sound like a good time to me. But to be fair, I had my own version of that moment when I was in grad school also, because who doesn't regret their choices when they're in grad school?
So are you aware of the concept of speedrunning?
I mean, yes.
The idea of like trying to finish a game as fast as possible?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you know the Games Done Quick event? Have you heard of this?
No.
So there's this event called Games Done Quick. They do a summer Games Done Quick, which I believe just ended. And I mean, speedrunning, like, sure, like a really linear game, people will try and complete it and they'll have different challenges they set them for themselves. So you'll hear Any Percent, which name of a Patreon show from Into the Aether, which is the idea that like, you're just doing whatever you can to finish the game. You don't have to complete everything. It's just like literally you could complete 0.1% of the game if you found a cheat to do that. Right. You might hear that like Any Percent, like, I don't know what the term is, but like, you know, no break, like you can't like break the game to do it or something, you know. You'll hear like randomizers, like Zelda games often have randomizers. Well, they'll like randomize dungeons and whatnot.
Interesting.
There was a Balatro speedrun at Summer Games Done Quick by this person named Sixa. This is not like there's an end you can get to Ante 8, right?
Right.
Or get through Ante 8, but there's not really like an end to the game. That's kind of the point of the game.
Right.
But the way that he did it was he had to do 3 decks, and I think they were set which 3 decks it was. So he had to do 3 decks and he couldn't skip any blinds. So it says 3 deck, random seed, no skips, which means 3 decks, but he also couldn't like input a seed. So if he had found a particular seed value that like worked out, talk about those in a second, he couldn't have that ahead of time. He just had to let the game choose for him.
Got it.
When you finish or fail a round in Balatro, it'll have like a seed. It's just like a collection of numbers and letters. And that is literally like the thing that you put into the random number generator that determines what the series of numbers that it spits out. Right. Yeah. So random number generators are not actually random. You feed them a seed and they pump out numbers based on that seed, which is why if you make a seed and then you copy it, you get the same results if you play the same way. They're like, when I was playing the demo in the Balatro Discord, there was people like playing various seeds, and I had one that had like almost all of the legendary jokers and a bunch of glass cards.
Whoa.
And I was getting stupid numbers with that.
Yeah.
It was fun. That's not a way that I often enjoy playing, just because like, I don't know, part of the thing is like figuring out the new seed and like actually getting better versus just like that is when the game becomes memorization, right? It's like, okay, I do this here, I do this there. Frankly, that is what a lot of speed running is a lot of memorization, but it's also the execution of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I liked Six's run. It's worth watching. I'll also link that.
I'll have to check it out. I see in the preview here the bull. That is Bull and Bootstraps are two of my partner's favorite cards. And that has actually been something that's really fun, is like watching how our strategies differ, right? So I was saying, we hand the controller back and forth, but we also are like constantly coaching each other and talking shit on like what hands or strategies we're choosing to play, because we are such fundamentally different players. Like and like, this is, again, like, it is fun to play these games and to be learning from people. I think I've said a number of times, like, I'm a late comer to video games as a hobby. And so it's been really fun watching, like, Mac play and seeing her really focus on, like, as much money as possible is key to her strategy. And like, she is always going to be going for the Hermit, which doubles your money up to $20, or Temperance, which gives you the sell value of your jokers, like to add more money to the pot to be able to buy more cards, or for her really to buy more Celestial packs, because she really loves planet cards. So I, on the other hand, will like spend it all, like, whatever.
So this is actually a thing that, like, I think will make you better at the game, is to like have you get interest like per like $5, I think.
Yeah.
And so there's like, I forget exactly where it caps out, but you should like try and get up to that cap. I think
caps
it's like
out at 25
unless
you get seed money, and then it can caps out at 50 because it's up to $10. So it caps out at $5 or $10. I have gotten better at this. So like, what happened is, like, watching her play that strategy has improved and made me more strategic about like when I double my money. So like, or when I like add to the pot, right? Rather than like skipping a run to double my money on a tag, right? Like, when I have $4, I'll wait and then do it like, when I have $20, right?
Yeah.
So it's been cool to like get to experience that, which is something that I haven't really gotten a lot of, because when I picked up playing video games was during the pandemic, and like I haven't done a lot of like gameplay with other people.
Yeah.
Even though I know that that's possible, like virtually, certainly there's an entire Discord culture around that premise. It's not something I've participated in before, so it's been really fun.
I am not a big online gamer generally, so I feel that.
Wait, okay. I want to know what the jokers you hate are. Like, the jokers you'll never take.
I'm like scrolling through the list right now. Stone Joker's one of them, because I never play stone cards. Mail-in rebate. Earn $5 for each discarded rank, and the rank changes every round. That's too wishy-washy, uninteresting.
Yeah.
Reserved parking. Each face card held in hand has a 1 in 2 chance to give $1. Like, it just doesn't play with like the strategies I enjoy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm looking.
One of the ones that I don't like, or I just like, I've been trying to like coach myself on, like, I haven't figured out the strategy to use it well yet, right? I don't like erosion, but that is because I am very rarely playing a tarot card strategy of like deleting cards from my deck. I'm more likely to be trying to scale my jokers together, or like trying to add cards to my hand. I haven't quite figured out the deletion stuff.
Yeah, so there's some pretty solid strategies that work in most card games, in like trading card games and anything where you can like draw cards. You having more cards is good. So like in this game, a bigger hand. In Magic, card advantage, being able to know what the next card is, or drawing more cards, like that's always good. But one of the biggest ways, or the like clearest ways to win in roguelike deck builders, gets referred to as like thin to win. And it's the idea is that like the smaller your deck, the more consistent it is. I am also really bad at this strategy. I am like terrible at this strategy.
Well, I think that some of the thing is like, there's really only one way to delete the cards from your deck. I mean, I know that there's more than one way, but like there's one primary way, and it's, it's the Hanged Man, right?
The Hanged Man,
which deletes 2 cards at a time, but that relies on you finding the Hanged Man out of all of the other tarot cards. Like, you have to do such an aggressive tarot buying strategy that I've just said that I'm not good at the money strategy part of this. And I'm like, I can't spend all of the money that I would have to spend to buy the Hanged Man that many times.
So you can get the Hanged Man and the Fool, which will give you another Hanged Man.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It gives you the last tarot or planet card that you played.
Yeah.
But also you can play Death, which turns one card into another card. Right. So if you have, for example, a strategy that's based on
yes, I do this with aces.
Aces, yeah, right. But I was thinking 8s because
Fibonacci.
of Fibonacci, but also
wow, look at how much game knowledge lives in my brain, Matt. Aren't you so proud of me?
I am so proud of you. 8 ball, which 1 in 4 chance for each played 8 to create a tarot card when scored. That's actually a cycle, right? So you can play tarot heavy strategies, use tarots to make your deck mostly 8s so that when you play 8s, you get more tarot cards.
Oh. Okay, I'm going to go play some Balatro after this. I'm learning so much. I mean, I think that this is also like how I felt when I started watching like any Balatro streamers, like any Balatro YouTubers. I was like, there's a whole other fucking thing happening here. And I mean, I've had that with every game that I've played. I mean, who among us didn't start playing Animal Crossing in 2020 and was super proud of their island and then opened up YouTube to see these insane island tours with people with like millions of bells. I say as a billionaire myself now, you know, like the kinds of stuff that people think of to do in these games, I'm never thinking of.
Balatro University on YouTube, if you haven't already.
I have not. I will check that out.
I love the description of this channel. Learn to play Balatro less bad.
That is, in fact, what I need.
Yeah. They rank jokers. They will tell you how to get to E, for example. They will just do really big runs.
Whoa.
It's a good channel.
I'm going to have to check that out. Yeah.
Other cool, fun, neat stuff about Balatro I want to talk about. I can't believe I'm about to explain the difference in interpreted and compiled languages to you, but it's important. In computer programming.
Okay. I'm listening.
Can you tell that I am the person that I am?
I mean, I talked about how I tried to make a Cold War version of Risk with my friends when I was a teenager. So, like, tell me about computer languages, Matt.
In computer programming, you have compiled languages and interpreted languages. Compiled languages need to be compiled for, more or less, I know, the hardware that they're on, or that they were compiled on, right? So this is, think C. Right.
Okay.
It will need to be compiled for the hardware it's going to run on.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily need to be compiled on that machine. There are cross compilers. It's a whole thing. Interpreted languages are languages that have an interpreter that is compiled for a specific machine. But that interpreter, then, like, you might release one for a Mac, one for a PC, one for Android, right? And then that interpreter can run the same code anywhere. This is how websites work. JavaScript is an interpreted language, right? It runs in the JavaScript interpreter. And what this also usually means is that you have more access to the code if the thing you're using is run in an interpreter.
Okay.
Famously, in browsers, you can view source, you can look at the HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript. That's partially because, like, that's how we designed the web, but it's also partially because, like, interpreted languages, it's just, like, harder to hide.
Yeah, I know how to do that because I used to edit my Tumblr.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Balatro is written in an interpreted language called Lua.
Okay.
And it's built in an engine that uses Lua called Love2D, which is why it's actually been so easy to port Balatro to a bunch of different places. And the reason it's coming to phone at some point is because it's built... Yeah, I know, right? It's built in this...
hours.
Well, you might lose it earlier if you do what I tell you next.
Uh-oh.
Is because it's written in this language there's interpreters for iOS, there's interpreters for Android. You can put this everywhere. That's why it was easy to port to the consoles and all those things. The other thing is that this is not usually the case, especially with like websites and stuff. But the app that he wrote the game is super small. So it was also really easy to get going. But it also means that we have access to all of the code for Balatro, which is how we know that the wheel is actually a 25% chance. And it's also how people have gotten this game running on a bunch of stuff that it wasn't built to run on. And it's also how modifications or like mods have been developed for it. So like there's a bunch of mods that let you like add different jokers and stuff and add different vouchers that like are not in the base game. I've not played with those. I want to, just haven't taken the time to do it. That's how I feel about mods generally in video games. I'm always like, oh, that sounds neat. And then I never do it. But the thing that I have done is run a Love 2D app on my iPad and changed a few lines of code to make sure it would run and played a shit ton of Balatro on my iPad mini.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's so fun though. Like I really think this game really works with a touchscreen really well. Like you're already playing it on Switch, right?
Yeah.
But like just having it there and just kind of picking it up and playing, it's harder to update. Like your Switch is going to update when an update comes out, and that's fine.
Right.
Like when he did that big patch that balanced a bunch of things or made things slightly fairer, it took a while for me to get that on my iPad. Actually, I don't think I've actually updated it yet. I should do that.
You should, yeah.
But I'll link out to a tutorial on how to do it. You can use this thing called Balatro Mobile Maker to get it on your device. And it's pretty straightforward. I'll also link out to a bunch of mods as well.
That's cool. I also really respect you for thinking that I can successfully do this myself. I mean, I trust that you wouldn't make a recommendation that you didn't think that I could actually do. And like, I am good at, if I'm good at one thing, it's following instructions.
I mean, also, I can just take your phone from you and put it on your phone at some point.
It's true. You could. That's so funny. Hey, Mac, if you were listening to this part of the episode, no, you weren't. You have to finish studying for the bar before we can do this for you.
Pass the bar, Mac. Also, I just want to shout out to you, but also to the listener, if you like Balatro, I mentioned some of these games already. Monster Train, I think it is similar to Slay of the Spire, but more approachable.
Yeah, cool.
Cobalt Core, I think, is before Balatro, the roguelike deck builder that I connected with the most. It's super cool game. It has this directionality about it. You are playing these, for lack of a better word, furries in a spaceship. And you, it's a roguelike deck builder, but you're also, the cards are like making your spaceship move.
Sorry. We gotta go back. Furries in a spaceship? That's what you said?
Yeah, so there's like this aesthetic with video games, especially indie games, where like people love to make like little animal characters, and I can't help but just like see them as furries every time. Just because I know people. So like like literally so no judgment at all.
For sure.
It is obvious to me.
For sure.
And it is what this game is, I think. You'll see it.
Love that.
It's a really good game. Like I said, you're playing cards that sure are like damaging the other spaceship, but you're also like moving it left and right, which is like this added element to the game that makes it really fun. You can play Slay the Spire, but like you can be more original than that. You can play Luck Be a Landlord.
Hey.
A lot of people love Luck Be a Landlord. It is not one that I have connected with personally, but it is out there and people love it a lot.
Yeah. I mean, and you can always play more Balatro.
You can always play more Balatro. I'm looking actually at my phone right now to see if I have any that I enjoy. It's not card-based, but it is a roguelike that I just downloaded while I was in Colombia called Guncho. It's more of like a positional like tactics grid-based game, but I've really enjoyed that one. It's much smaller, shorter than most roguelikes. You really play like I think 6 or 7 rounds.
Nice.
But it's kind of got the same upgrade structure. It's just way more simplified. And hey, if you like this episode, just keep your eyes open.
Yeah.
We don't do a lot of video games on this show, but
yeah,
in case we do in the future, you should come to the Discord
and tell us about how you liked this episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell us what you liked about this episode.
Yeah.
For sure. I think that's all I got for you, AC.
Hell yeah. I mean, I think that Balatro, a game that someone made just to make a game for their friends, made me better at math, is like something that I'll be thinking about for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And honestly, I can't recommend this game enough. If you've made it to this point and you're like someone who hasn't played any Balatro and you have a Nintendo Switch, like I think it's worth the download. I think it's worth like $15 to download it and play it and mess around with it.
Hell, if you've got like a Mac that you got for college 10 years ago, it'll run there.
Yes, absolutely.
Get it on Steam.
Get it on Steam. Yeah. I forgot that it's on all platforms.
It's everywhere.
Like my Nintendo Switch. You can download it everywhere. Yeah. And so it's such a fun game. It is worth playing. It is fun to play over and over again, as, you know, is the genre.
Where can people find you on the internet, AC?
Well, you can find me on the internet at acfachi.com. Great website.
And you can find me at matthorton.live. I just put out a video called Apple Can Fix Mac Gaming.
Oh.
That was really me writing some bullet points and talking in a camera and ranting about things that I had talked about in Discord a bunch. But hey, people are enjoying it. People are watching it. I didn't end up putting that on the website because it was just bullet points, so I never actually wrote it out.
That's funny.
So I don't know. Maybe that'll get up there sometime. You can find the show at can'tletitgo.gay. Share it with your friends. Tell them how much you love us. And also find us on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at can'tletitgo.gay.
Yeah.
Thank you to The Worst Garbage. Come hang out with us in the Discord. We're in the Can't Let It Go channel on the Discord. You can find that at theworstgarbage.online or at can'tletitgo.gay. And thank you to Scout for our art and Ethan for our music. It's funny, I have this hint for next time that is still in our rundown, but we kind of said we were going to stop doing that, so I should probably take it out of the rundown.
I honestly also don't know what we're doing next time. It's going to be a surprise for everyone.
I have an idea, and I am going to tell you about it when we stop recording. And,
oh my God.
It could be a lot of work to do the thing that I want to do
Perfect.
next time, so maybe we'll delay that.
Hey. All right.
Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you all next time.
Talk to you next time. Bye.
TWG, the worst garbage, online.